Bye. My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Duck Dogs. I am your host, Josh Miller. And as always, before we get rolling, we need to spend some time and thank the partners that make this show possible. So first, thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba is the presenting sponsor of this podcast. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is what I feed my personal dogs and the dogs at the kennel. And Eukanuba Puppy Pro is what Whitney feeds her puppies. So if you're looking for a high quality premium food to put your four-legged hunting partner on, be sure to check them out, eukanuba.com. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test rated kennel, both in the intermediate and in the large sizes. So no matter how you travel, you'll be sure that you are traveling the safest way that you possibly can, at least for your dog. So check them out, www.luckyduck.com. They also have fans and pads and the new kennel cot. So a lot of things that will make your dog safer and more comfortable. So www.luckyduck.com. Thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs as it pertains to your dog. So go check them out. Great people, great customer service. It is a fantastic place to do business with. So www.gundogsupply.com. Also, thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is the premium clothing for not only hunting. We always talk about the hunting side of it, but their everyday wear keeps you comfortable and out doing whatever you're doing longer. www.sitkagear.com, and would highly suggest checking out the new ambient hoodie. It's probably my newest favorite piece of equipment that they have. Again, www.sitkagear.com, and a new partner, Kent Cartridge. Thank you to Kent for contacting us and wanting to be involved. And I'll tell you what, you guys, the reason that we said yes is because I have been shooting Kent for years, and I love it. I shoot the bismuth. I will shoot the Fast Steel 2.0 occasionally as well. And I just really like the product. I really like the product. And now, since I've gotten to know some of the people inside the company, really enjoy them too. And that's a big part of this for me, is the people involved. There's a lot of good products out there, but the people that are inside those companies oftentimes make or break it for me. And so super excited to have Kent Cartridge as a new partner of this show. And of course, thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your online training program that will help you progress with your dog with a video-based library, step-by-step instructions to get you to your goals. So go check it out, www.retrieverroadmap.com. Well, hope everyone is off to a fantastic week so far. I thank you first and foremost for everyone that reached out after hearing in the last episode that I was fighting Lyme's. Really appreciate that. I certainly didn't want to tell you guys for any kind of attention, but definitely appreciate you guys being flexible with me. I know we were a little late last week with the podcast. It was just really tough to get any kind of energy, but I'm feeling better. Still a little achy, but overall feeling much better, feeling like I have my energy back, out working with clients, out working with, the dog. It's just like, I feel like I'm back, so thank you guys for everyone that reached out and had something positive to say about that. That certainly helped me as I was getting over that. So now that we're back at it, I have Brett Ayers, who's been on the show numerous times with me, and he is up here doing more videographies. It seems like it never ends for Retriever Roadmap, getting more content so we can get more videos, more step-by-steps in that program, and that's important, because as we've talked about, no two dogs are alike, so we want to take advantage of these new dogs that we have in at the kennel, the new steps that they're going through, and so having him here is a big deal. So, Brett, welcome back to Duck Dogs.
Yeah, thanks. It's always a pleasure. I love sitting down talking with you and, just having some good constructive conversation. And, of course, it's always nice to be in Wisconsin. So,
this is totally off topic, but this is going to be a major frustration of mine. I hate flies.
They're everywhere.
And there's two of them that I don't know how they got in here, but there's two of them, and it is going to bug the living daylights out of me if I don't. So if you guys hear like a big smack sometime in this podcast, it's not me hitting Brett. It is me trying to get these dang flies. Gosh, that's irritating to me.
Right on your notebook.
Really irritating to me. Oh, there's one. Okay, you might hear a smack here.
Oh,
did I get him?
Oh, didn't see him fly away.
Just not on my game today.
Don't see him.
Anyway. So before we get going in, we have a couple training topics that I'd like to hit today. And what's fun about this to me, if you guys are new to this show, I like to hit on topics that are timely, that maybe I'm going through with a certain dog, with a certain client, maybe a frequently asked question that has come up recently. And I have a couple of them that I think are pretty neat. And certainly with the time of year, as you're going into season, I think both of these, the big topics anyways, and maybe Brett has a curveball he's going to throw at me. I'm not sure. But yeah, I have a couple topics I want to hit. But before I do, it's show season for us, and I was in Little Rock, Arkansas, as you guys know. Again, if you follow along, week to week with the podcast, Little Rock, Arkansas for Delta Waterfall, Game Fair. Then last weekend, Game Fair again. This weekend, Wisconsin Waterfall Expo here the weekend after that, and so it is show season. So Brett was able to attend Game Fair last weekend for, I believe, your first time ever at Game Fair. Yep. And so you'll be there again this weekend.
Yes, sir.
And so break that down for me. Like, having never seen Game Fair, knowing there's a lot of people, that are listening right now that have never attended Game Fair, give us your first time experience breakdown of Game Fair.
Anything that you need, hunting related, dog related, just really about anything. It's at Game Fair. Tons of people. I've been doing shows since the late 90s. I know I'm showing my age, but doing shows, and I even went to a lot of shows before I really got into the hunting industry. We had Point Malay, which is in Michigan, Monroe, Michigan. It was a huge show and waterfowl related. And like before, this is before online, before Cabela's, started popping up everywhere. Bass Pros, you had to go to these shows.
Now you're showing your age.
I am showing my age. I am showing my age. But you went to these shows to see new product. And it was always super cool because, that was the first time you got to see things, you got to feel things, and then you'd see them in a catalog, let it be Max or Rogers or Final Flight or whoever it was, just to be able to blow a duck call or blow a goose call or see a new decoy, to actually see what, the paint scheme looks like or whatever, it was a big thing. So, now with online stuff, it's just pretty simple to see a picture and hit the buy now button and go. So Game Fair, my first weekend, it was a big show back in the day when I was blowing a goose calling contest. I just never made it up here for whatever reason. I just never came up here. And my first experience was, first ever Friday, first time ever in the history of Game Fair, it's postponed. We got rain showers that came in, thunderstorms, lightning, all this stuff. So my first experience was, we get here on time for the show to start at 9. So we roll up at a little after 8 and get to the gate, and sorry, the gates don't open now until 11. It's postponed for the first time in the history of Game Fair. So, we went and spent a couple hours with some buddies and clients of yours and had a nice breakfast and went back, and the line, get him. Did you get him?
I got him.
He's
got him.
All right.
I muted it so I didn't, completely. Oh. That was dead in my hand.
That thing just got second wind.
And then it
took off.
Oh, my gosh. That sucker was playing possum on me.
Literally, he smacked it. It's laying dead. Well, at least it looks dead on the desk. He picks it up, holds it up to show me, and it takes off out of his fingers.
And I was so smart about it. I'm going to mute this so I don't blare somebody's eardrums out when I smack.
I was just getting ready to say, well, you're 1 for 2.
Oh, gosh.
Now you're 0 for 2.
Just keep going with your story, because I'm embarrassed.
Oh my gosh. So anyhow, we pull back up. It's probably about a half hour before the show opened, and there's a line of people ready to get in. And, it just reminded me of the old days because, shows, especially with COVID, some of them shut down. Just the attendance really hasn't been that well to some of the shows that I've been to through the last, several years. And to see the line of people waiting to get in that place on a Friday afternoon was fantastic. Get him. I know you want to.
I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna be patient.
But we had a great first day. Lots of people came through. We have a Riverstone Kennels and a Retriever Roadmap booth there at the show. You are kind of floating in and out, working the sport dog booth, and then doing a seminar every day. So I was able to catch your seminar because it was shortened on Friday because of the being postponed, and I caught your seminar on Saturday, which. Man, I know I've told you, but I just want to tell your listeners, if you've never seen a Josh Miller seminar, you have to go see a Josh Miller seminar. He does a fantastic job. And not only the material that he puts out, but how he presents it and, all the tips that you can pick up from just an hour of listening to the guy, not only on dog training, but of life. It's just incredible. So
thank you.
Yes, go see a Josh Miller seminar if you haven't seen one yet. So, but yeah, we had a lot of people come through the booth, talking dogs, talking training. RPM is in our booth as well. So Joe's in there selling some leashes and leads and training tabs and whatnot. So great first experience. Seeing a lot of faces I hadn't seen in a long time in the industry. So yeah, it's a fun first experience.
So there were a couple of things there that you touched on that I thought were neat. Were neat. Huh. That's going to bug me. It was neat. It was neat to hear you talk about these things.
I'm not an English teacher, so.
I know, but it is kind of a big deal for me. So, okay, so one of the things I thought was interesting is, you had talked about the show itself in COVID and how this shut it down. And I've talked about on this show before of how this podcast doesn't happen without COVID, because seminars are something that I've taken a lot of pride in, that I really enjoy doing. And the reason I say I take a lot of pride in it is that early on in my career, when I was starting my business and I'm a young dog trainer and I'm like, how do I separate myself? It was the seminars. There's a lot of good dog trainers. There's a lot of guys that can go be successful in field trials. There's a lot of guys that can go, stack up the ribbons at hunt tests. But there are very few people that can speak, especially in a way that is easily digestible for the person listening. And so I literally worked on that. That was not something I was talented at. I was in high school and probably college too when I had to give speeches. I did not like it. It wasn't something that I enjoyed doing, but I learned how to enjoy it, right? And so, but what's interesting about the COVID stuff is that you had mentioned the people, right? So the people coming back after not being able to for COVID. What we haven't talked about, and I think this is super interesting, is the companies and these shows. Because think about this, and sometimes this is hard to think about from a consumer standpoint, right? But the number of companies that are no longer attending shows.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to me because when you look at as a marketing department, okay, so from the inside, when you have a company that all of a sudden can't do some of the things you have always budgeted for, specifically these shows, and I can tell you firsthand experience, we are a very, very low cost as far as our cost into these shows in comparison to some of these big companies. It's expensive for us.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is expensive to go to these shows. When you figure booth space, you figure travel, you figure meals, you figure hotels, you figure food, you figure the cost of bringing the things you're going to bring, right? There's so much cost that goes into to going to this show. So you look at some of these companies that have way more cost than we have into some of this stuff. It has to be a large number, okay? Then you take COVID that comes in, and all of a sudden, you as a marketing manager, you can't spend that money, okay? So you sit on it. Then through COVID, as we all saw, sales were going nutty.
Yeah, crazy.
Right? Nutty. It doesn't matter if it was decoys or guns or shells or camouflage or whatever it was, right? Like people were spending money.
100%.
So depending on the company, if it was what I'm going to call bean counter company, where people are looking at what went out versus what went in, well, we saved all this money not going to shows, but it didn't hurt our bottom line.
No.
Right?
Yep.
Easy cut. So it's really interesting to me to walk around some of these shows and see some of these companies that are no longer attending that always did. And, I think this is just one of those many things that COVID affected, but maybe we don't always see the behind the curtain part of it, but that's a real thing that I just talked about.
100%. Yeah. I was working for a consumer company at the time of COVID. And I literally, I'm sure just like a lot of people, I was nervous about my job. Like, people are just, going to just stop spending money and, that's going to roll back to me and affect, my job. And it was just the opposite. It's like sales were record sales. Now, obviously what I learned and what we learned through the whole thing was people were getting outside. They couldn't do anything else, stuck in their homes all the time. So now all of a sudden, hey, let's buy a kayak, or let's buy a boat, or let's buy a new shotgun. Let's buy a bunch of shotgun shells. Let's go outside and do things. And I think you saw more people that maybe didn't do those type of things before, now starting to do it because they couldn't do anything else. They couldn't go to, a restaurant to have dinner. They couldn't go to a bar and hang out with their buddies. They couldn't go to work. They were working from home. So you get, all wound up in your house and want to get outside, stir crazy, and the first thing you do is let's go outside, take a walk. And then, okay, hey, this looks fun. I've always wanted to do this. And so it was just kind of neat to see those sales, like where I thought it was going to plummet, where it actually did the opposite and really took off. So cool to see new people getting into, and I'm sure you saw it in the dog world too, new people getting into things and, buying a dog, and now they're going to train a dog. And, so now I've seen waterfowlers that now buying products and, like I said, shotguns and decoys and spinning wing decoys and whatever else. And, those sales they took off. So
Well, okay, so to stick on this a little bit, change gear a hair. So talk about the companies, right? Talk about kind of some of that shift. Here's what's crazy to me about Game Fair. So Game Fair, first off, let's talk about what Game Fair is, in case you don't know. So Game Fair, actually, so there's a Game Fair overseas in the UK, which is where the owner of the Game Fair in the US got the idea. Went over there, said, oh my gosh, we need something like this, came back, started Game Fair. Game Fair is in Anoka, Minnesota. It's 2 weekends long, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
Always in August. And the timing's great because everyone, at least up here, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Midwest, like season is just 2 weeks away, right? North Dakota started their early goose season this
on
week,
Monday,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's here. People are ramped up. People are excited. It's a great time, for them to do this. What is interesting to me is I look around at that show, like Saturday. Saturday was packed.
Oh, it's packed.
Like you couldn't walk down I'm just gonna say alley, but it's not an alley. I mean, it's all outdoors, so it's basically think of extendedly wide sidewalk.
Right.
Is kind of what goes through this
little roadway or alleyway, so to speak. Yeah.
Couldn't get through there,
No.
right? I mean, just floods of people going both ways. And I'm sitting there looking at this going, how does this work? How does this show work? How does it every single year it draws this crowd? Nothing changes.
Right.
I've been going, so that show has been going on for 35 years. I've been going to it, I believe, for 12. I don't think anything has changed.
Right.
But everybody shows up.
Yep.
I just think it shows that, the enthusiasm that people specifically in the Midwest have about the outdoors, and that's certainly not to discredit, any of the enthusiastic, levels from anywhere else, but this show doesn't move. Like for Pheasant Fest, makes sense to me, right? 1 year we're Minneapolis, 1 year we're Sioux Falls, 1 year we're Des Moines, 1 year we're Kansas City, 1 year we're Omaha. It's every single year somewhere else. I get that.
Yep.
I don't get this.
There's a lot of people that came from everywhere. I mean, they travel a long ways, to spend the weekend up here to come to the show.
Yeah.
But it's for, in my opinion, it's for just like when I was younger or when I was a kid. It's like you want to get the newest, latest, greatest. You want it in your hand. You want to touch it. You want to feel it. And that this show gives you the opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I learned something about you. Your dad put on a show. Like I didn't know that. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So Dad, he got involved with Fred Zink actually at the time because where I'm from in Ohio, Fred, he had a farm that was close to the area that we hunted on, and Dad, he just started a waterfowl festival and had, it had big aspirations, or he had big aspirations, and he did it for several years, and then it just got to the point where he held calling contests. He held the Ohio State, duck calling contest, which is a sanction for, just to qualify you for Stuttgart. And he had a core group of guys that would help him, but it's all volunteer. He wasn't making any money off of it. It was just all volunteer because he had a passion for the outdoors and wanted to bring a show similar to Point Malay, because that's where we went in Monroe, Michigan, to our area. Because we have, I hunt a lake that's 2 miles wide, 10 miles long. So there's a lot of waterfowlers in my area. So instead of them driving a couple hours, he wanted to bring that to them. And he did it for several years, held some calling contests and had some pretty big vendors coming in there. And, then he just got to the point where I think, I'm not going to say he got burnt out. He just, he decided that it was a little too much and decided to pass the torch, and nobody else took over from there. But actually there's another guy that's just starting it again. It's at a gun club. So you have a shooting event, and, like I said, he'd have shooting events and then calling contests, and they'd have seminars, and there were several vendors there that you could buy things from, and, Avery Outdoors and Zinc Calls and Foils Migrators and people like that, were there. So it was cool to have it in my own backyard. And again, a lot of those people were my friends from being in the outdoor industry, from traveling around, blowing in contests. so, just to have that in the backyard was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So. It's interesting. It's an interesting business, to me, because I'm good friends with Chuck, who is the owner of Game Fair, and in conversation this weekend, and not today, this weekend, I learned something new about Game Fair I didn't know, and as I kind of talked about, so it's 35 years this has been going on. Game Fair, 35 years, a long time.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. And so he told me this last weekend that for the first 4 years of that show, he lost money.
Right.
How many people are going to do that fifth year?
Not many.
You know what I mean? And
you start scratching your head going, what am I doing?
Right. And so you might be sitting there going, how in the world do you lose money at a show? So he couldn't at the time, he couldn't charge vendors to come in and set up a booth. He does now.
Yep.
Right? But he didn't back then.
Right.
Then, once he got the vendors to commit, he couldn't not have people show up because then the vendors wouldn't come back the next year or he couldn't get more. So he gave tons of tickets away. And so the majority of people walking through the door or through the gates are free. Right? So free people going to see free vendors. It just doesn't have a great recipe for success as far as business goes.
Right.
So now I don't know, but the guy's doing really well with that show.
Yep.
And good for him. It's a fun thing to see.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. And again, from a consumer, don't always think about this.
Sure.
Right? But think about everything it took for him to build that show to what it is today.
Yep.
That is a really neat thing to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Being on the I helped Dad, with some things, because I was blown in contests. I kind of kept my nose out of it because I didn't want that association of, oh, hey, you're blown in this contest that you put together and, whatever. So I saw a lot of the back end, and it was the same way. He started the same way. It's like booth space was free. He had volunteers came in that would cook. Had brats, hot dogs, maybe hamburgers and stuff like that. So we sold that. That's where he made his profit. So vendors were free, getting in was free, and the only thing that they were making money on, which was donated back to the club for the grounds that he was using. And, after I think he ran it for 4 or 5 years, was the same way. And then he didn't take that chance, like Chuck did and go that extra year. And he, I'm not saying, who knows? It could have, it could have grown into something. But yeah, it was cool to be a part of it. Like I said, being in the backyard and watching it. And I really have respect for what they've done up here at Game Fair. It's quite the scene if you've not been here.
Mm-hmm. Basically, it's like the state fair for outdoorsmen.
100%.
Everybody brings their dogs, which I do not understand at all. Yep. Okay, so let's explain that a little bit. So if I didn't have to give seminars, there's no way I would bring my dog.
Sure.
Reason being is we had this discussion. Was it Friday or Saturday?
On the way to the show.
Yep.
It started as we were going in because of the line of people that were waiting to get in and all the dogs that were there. Mm-hmm. I had mentioned to you that's how the whole conversation, that's where we started the conversation.
Right. And my answer was, name one positive thing that comes from taking your dog into that environment. Right? And it's not that I don't trust my dog. It's I don't trust everyone else's dog.
Sure.
I personally saw 5 fights. I don't know how many you saw or if you just saw any.
I saw a few, and I heard some aggressive barking, but I didn't, I guess, run out of the tent to see where what was going on. But yeah, it's
most of my fights that I saw was like a ba 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 separated.
Separated.
Right? So not major issues, but I was told that coming in the front door that there was a big one with a Doberman or something like that.
Sure.
Now,
yeah, and explain that because it's just not labs and it's retrievers, chesties. It's
we saw
everything.
We saw pit bulls, we saw Dobermans,
Shepherds.
we saw shepherds, we saw Newfoundlands, we saw little toy dogs. I don't even know what they were.
Right.
So now the reason that I wouldn't, I see little puppies walk around that show. I think it's the worst place for a puppy to be because are all these dogs vaccinated?
Right. You don't know.
No, they're not.
Right.
Right. Like they should be, but they're not.
Yep.
So it's the easiest place or the quickest place for a young puppy to pick something up, in my opinion. But it's something that everyone loves to do because and it is cool because they have a lot of games.
Oh, for sure.
Speed retrieves, dock jumping, and you can go enter your dog into any of them. So, they do. It is a cool thing.
Right.
But you really have to think about it,
Yep.
right? Because one of those negative situations, and all of a sudden you have a dog that is defensive around other dogs, right? Or nervous around crowds of people, or there's a lot of things to think about.
Right. Yeah, let's break that down a little bit because I don't want it to come off as like it's a negative to bring your dog there. Because, I personally wouldn't, but my observation is just the control factor. So you have all these types of dogs. I've seen a lot of the dogs that were walking the owners, and the owners weren't walking them. So, the dog's totally out of control, pulling the owner wherever he wants to go, and they're just, that can cause issues. Next thing you know, he goes up and goes to smell another dog, and that dog doesn't like that and turns around, and boom, you got a fight. And, it's cool to see the games because, like, I ran solo in one of the scurries, and Joe had run Clyde. Dave had run solo in one of the scurries. This was all after it was all said and done. But, where our booth is set up, you get to watch that. So it's cool seeing the dogs and seeing the level of the dogs because, there's people that probably dogs don't hunt that were running some of them. So, they obviously – they didn't perform that well, but, just to see how the owner reacts and just observation. I'm an observation guy. So, so I don't want to make it come off as like it's a negative thing because there's a lot of things for your dog to do. But it's just,
for sure.
It's just a situation where, if everybody was under control, it wouldn't be a bad thing.
Right. And you would hope that someone would be open enough and honest enough with themselves to say, hey, my dog shouldn't be in this situation.
Right.
But it doesn't happen.
Correct.
And that's where, it's the people factor, right? Like, shoot, there was one lady there with a pit bull that was literally like, rah, rah,
right.
And on the back two legs, dragging this lady down the walkway. And then an hour later, all the way back. And I'm like, wouldn't you think that you'd look at that and go, this is not a good environment for me. Get out of here.
Right. 100%.
Come on,
There were a lot of dogs that I watched that were under control and that were, had really good obedience. But just, me having a dog that's an obedient dog to bring him in a situation like that to possibly set them up to fail, get him. Another fly. Mm-hmm. But, just the temptation, it just, it's an interesting, like I said, I enjoy watching the people run their dogs, and I enjoy seeing the different breeds that are there and the different personalities that are there. It's just, it's just something that I personally would just, leave my dogs at home and go get what I wanted and go from there.
But if you haven't been there, you should go.
Great show.
Like I tell everybody that. If you haven't been there, you have to go. You have to see it once. It's worth it. It really is.
Great show.
Okay, so let's get into training because I have a couple training topics I really want to touch on. One of them, Brett, I think you definitely can speak on, at least, even from an observing standpoint, because you watched, this happen. Mm-hmm. And then one that it was a question that recently came up a couple times in our Retriever Roadmap community, which I think is real. It's just, you and I had such a good conversation about this earlier today that it was worth talking about here, because it's a great topic. So the first one is choosing your battles. And what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is there are certain situations that you have to choose the battle that you want to fight, knowing the potential repercussion that comes with fighting that battle. Okay. So the example that we went through here just last week was I had a dog that has really struggled and has really fought me on whistle sit, specifically as he stretches out at a distance. So after we get past 50, 60 yards, he's going to fight me. We get to 100, he's going to fight more. We get to 150, he's really going to fight it, right? And when I say fight it, I mean just blow me off. Like he's just not going to do it. He might slow down, act like he's going to turn, and then go, nope, and keep going. And this is a dog that is very sensitive on the collar. So if I give him a correction at a distance, he wants to stop and suck into me. Okay, so I just can't use the collar with him in this situation. So in this example, I had sent him and I was really focused on the whistle sit. So I went through, put him on lead, did some whistle sits on lead, then took him off lead, then did some recalls to me, right? So I prepped him for when you hear a whistle, you're going to sit. That's what we're working on today. So bring him out, send him, took a great line, starts getting off to the right, tweet. He complies very well, turns, and he's looking at me. He's on edge, right? But he's looking at me, under control. Give him a back cast, to the pile. Boom, was fantastic. Okay, so Brett asked me the question, why didn't you make him sit down? Because when he turned, he was under control. He was faced, squared up to me, but he wasn't sitting, he was standing. And so I chose in that situation to give the cast. So here I want to dig into the choosing your battles part of this, because for me, when he turned and he complied and he showed the control, that's what I was fighting. Yes, I want him to sit down. Mainly because for him, he should sit down. And when I send him back home with his owner, if he's not sitting down, potentially that's that inch that goes to a mile very quickly. So I want him to sit down. I have two personal dogs of mine that I don't make sit down for different reasons. That's probably the podcast for another day. But in this situation here, he was past the point that he fights me on. I gave him that whistle. He turned. He was under control. He was everything. He was standing, but he did everything. I gave him that cast, gave him his reward. So why didn't I make him sit? Because I have fought with this dog for a month on when you turn and I give you a cast, I'm casting you to your reward. But if he overthinks it, that's when he gets edgy. That's when he starts questioning or no going on my cast. That's where he starts getting nervous and starts slinking into me because he's unsure. Confidence is a really, really big thing for this dog. So if in my thought process, he did everything right. If I say, sit, give another tweet, whatever I'm going to do to make him sit down, my fear is he's going to overthink it. He's going to get nervous. He's going to want to suck into me. He did everything right. I'm going to pick and choose my battle. I'm going to have that battle. I'm just not going to have it today. I'm not going to have it right now because you did everything else right. Today was about complying with the stop to take the cast at a further distance. Okay, we'll get there, but I chose not to have that battle today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just sitting observing, doing some filming for Retriever Roadmap, social media, et cetera, and I noticed that, and that's what sparked my interest. Just observing, being a dog guy is like I told you, I probably would have made my dog sit, and that's why I asked, is like, why? And then when you explained, the process, because I haven't seen the process up to this point. When you explain that process, it's like, man, that makes 110%. I totally understand now. So, but like I said, I even told you, I was like, if that was, let's say, Timber or Deuce, if they turned and looked at me, I probably would have gave him a vocal sit, instead of just going, okay, hey, we're at this point, give him the cast and go. So it was very interesting. So that was one of them things where we're like, that'd be a great topic to talk about.
Well, and so another example that I have on this is we earlier this year got a dog in that we had never seen before, never worked with the owner before. Was a referral from a client that the dog was gun shy. Okay. So he felt like this dog was pretty well along as far as obedient, steady on his marks, was retrieving back to hand, was doing a lot of these things, right? But was gun shy, like to the point that like we're running the other way, getting under, like for us, we pull the side by side in the trailer, like getting under the trailer, wanting, if we're on site, running back to the kennel, like really, really noise shy. Okay. So we take this dog in, we start building confidence, get him on birds, kind of go, right? We gradually bring the gun back in, and after about 4 to 5 weeks, we're shooting over him. He's great, right? So as we keep the owner up to date on the progress, the guy comes back, so he wants to see how the dog's doing, comes in, we show him. Okay, so we're shooting a 12 gauge right over a dog that if you would have shot a starter pistol at 100 yards before, this dog is freaking out running the other way.
Gone.
Okay. And so we're pretty proud of this. Got to get inside the dog's head. It's not an easy thing to do. Okay. Pretty proud of this. And what we weren't doing is we weren't making him be steady.
I know where this is going.
Right. So the first thing the guy says, not oh my gosh, that's great you're shooting over him. Not the first thing he says is, why isn't he being steady anymore? My gosh.
Yeah. So let me hit off of that, because I went through the same thing, and I know you heard the Timber story, but when Timber had her situational issue, you came up here and it was bird, and you flat told me, it's like, she's probably not going to be steady, because I'm not worried about that right now, because we thought it was a gun issue at first. So when I got her back, she wasn't steady, but I knew that. I knew going in that she wasn't going to be steady. That wasn't my main thing. My main thing was, I need this dog, because like Switz thought it was a gun issue. I just want this dog to hunt, because if she's gun shy, she's not hunting. So,
well, and that's the point, right? It's like
100%.
You pick and choose your battles. Okay. If I have a dog in this situation, if I have a dog sitting at my side when that gun goes off and all the focus is on that gun, harder to get over.
Right.
So we loosen the screws, go, have fun, get feathers in your mouth, let this be background noise, right? This is the only way we can get you over this for a lot of dogs,
right,
is feathers in the mouth, go. Okay, so going back to this situation, and your situation too, right? It's like, why isn't the dog being steady anymore? Okay. Well, what does it matter if he's steady, if he's scared of the gun? Right? Like, you don't have a hunting dog. Right? So pick and choose your battles. We're not going to make you be steady right now, because we are going to build you up, and we're going to make it to where you are okay with this. And actually, you're going to love this, both the feathers and the gun and everything we have going on, right? So I'm sorry that your dog is no longer steady, but guess what? You can go do that at home.
You can fix that.
You couldn't fix this.
Right.
It's now fixed, right? Pick and choose your battles. Now, for me and my dogs, you and Timber, okay, we didn't have that battle then. We can have that battle later.
For sure.
Right? Now we've got confidence up. Now we've got a dog that's loving the gun, loving the birds, right? Okay. Now we go back to harnessing. Now we go back to control. Right? And it's really interesting to me how so many times, we have people that they want everything all at once. Right? And you're not going to get that. Taking things one step at a time, choosing your battles. In this situation, I did not ask that dog to sit because he did everything else that I wanted him to do. Yeah, I wanted you to just sit down, but did everything else. So let's have a win. And what happened? He didn't blow off another whistle that day. right?
Yep.
So he's getting it. He's understanding, right?
Right.
Be under control. Yeah, I mean, it's one step at a time.
Yeah, you could have yelled at him. You could have charged out after him. No, you sit. There's a lot of things that you could have done, but it's only going to make that situation worse.
Potentially.
Potentially.
And that's the thing, is the negative, does that outweigh the positive? Okay, right. So the positive was he did everything. So in the positive, so let's just say I'm going to make him sit down. The positive is he sits. Great. Now you take your cast. But what if he does? And I know this dog. He's very soft and he overthinks everything. So if I ask him, he's done everything right. If I make him sit down, I know he's going to get nervous. I know he's likely going to want to do this like little army crawl thing back into me because I'm his safety net, right? He feels comfortable. If I'm not doing something right, I want to be by you because that's where I feel safe, right? Or if if I make him sit down, he's probably going to tense up. I'm going to give him a cast. He might not even go on the cast, right? To me, in that split moment, the negative outweighed the positive.
Yeah.
So we were successful, and guess what he was doing today? He was sitting down on his whistles.
Yep.
Right? That was just a day, like not always that fast, but he did really, really well today. And so maybe, I think this is an interesting thing. Maybe it's just an evolution of the thought process, right? So maybe in his mind, maybe he even was sitting, right? He was doing everything right? And so he did everything right. And you start telling him he's doing something wrong, he's going to start going, what am I doing? What am I doing? Right? Today, I didn't do anything different except I did the same exact whistle sit drill beforehand. Take him out. He sat on everyone, right? So maybe there's just something there.
Yep.
But if I would have yelled at him, hammered on him, did something that I shouldn't have done, made him overthink, I would have had a much more frustrating session today.
Yes. He would have, as soft as he is, he probably would have, his confidence would have been gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just at that point better off putting them up and starting over.
No doubt. Okay.
Great topic.
So now it is a good topic.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
People don't think about that. I mean, for you guys out there, really think about that because it's those little things that I've learned from Josh, from the times I've been around him, those little things like that are what really, really intrigue me as Josh as a trainer because just breaking that stuff down it's incredible. So let that sink in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. So, okay, so question that has come up in the Retriever Roadmap community, whether it's emails to you, questions in the community on the Facebook page, all stuff. And I want to talk about this a little bit. And the topic is triple marks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, triple marks. I think this is an interesting topic because this is where everyone wants to get. Everybody wants to get to triple marks, right? Everybody wants to go 1, 2, 3. Everybody wants, after singles, they want to get to doubles, they want to get to triples because they think that triples are like the epitome, right? Because that's what you run in finish test, whatever you're looking at, right? Like that's what I want to get to. I can probably count on one hand the number of times that I run triple marks in a training session every year.
Mm-hmm.
I never do it. Doubles, I'll run doubles. I run a lot of singles. Okay. So if you are in a point where you're running a lot of multiple marks, specifically when you're getting into that triple mark situation, okay, there's a couple things you really need to think about. The biggest issue that comes from running doubles, triples, specifically on a regular basis is you are likely going to get a dog that starts head swinging. What I mean by that is you throw a mark, the dog is immediately looking for where the next one's coming from because he knows another one's coming. And what happens is the dog doesn't take a good mental picture of where that first bird landed. So then he comes back for his memory. So if you have a dog that is struggling with memories as far as, bird one is going to be your memory because you're going to have to remember where to come back to, right? Then they go on. Let's just use a double in this case. The second bird thrown will be what we call your go bird. You're going to go get that one first because it was the last one they saw, and you're going to come back and run a memory. I'm going to back up one step further. Why do we run that? Okay, in a double situation, why do we pick up the last bird thrown first? Because that first bird thrown, they're going to have to remember where that was. They take their eyes off of it. They go to the second bird. They watch it go down. If you take them off that second bird and make them go pick up that first memory, you have just now created two memories, and you've made this setup much more difficult. If they watch the first bird go down, memory, they move off of it. They watch the second bird go down. They don't take their eyes off of it. You send them. They go pick that up. That is a mark, right? A mark is when they watch it go down, go pick it up. Go pick that bird up, okay? Now, they still have a memory, but they have one memory, not two, okay? Again, that's a double mark situation. So, how do you help your dogs when they come into multiple mark situations? The biggest mistake that I see oftentimes people are making. Now, sometimes this is handling in a test where people are just excited, they're nervous, right? They're not thinking about things. They go too fast. Right, so let's just use a triple mark situation, okay? So first bird goes out, boom, bird lands, and like barely lands, you move on to the second one. Boom, barely lands, move on to the third one. Okay, boom, send him on that one. Now he's going to have to come back. Now think about this. You have a dog that is sitting in a spot that unless you're training in the same spot all the time, okay, this is a place that they've likely never taken a mental picture from in their life. New place, okay? I've never been to New York City, okay? You're dropping me in Times Square, and you're throwing me 3 bumpers, and I have to remember where 2 of them are. Try to put yourself in their shoes, okay? They don't know where they are. They don't know what they're looking at, right? If you don't give them time to watch where that goes down, take that mental photo, stare at it before you move on to the next one, you're making that dog's job much more difficult. And again, from a handler standpoint, you're not giving them enough time to be successful. So what do? I will, with my gun, right? So I'm following the bird, boom, goes down. I'll follow with my barrel to the ground. I'll pause. 1,000, 2,000, shuck the shell, and then when I shuck my shell on my gun, when I'm training or when I'm testing, that is my cue to my dog. There's another one. So unless they see, so like a lot of times in training, we'll do the same thing. I follow it, boom, follow with the barrel, pause for a couple seconds, Brock, gone, right? So for me, I'm following, shooting, keeping my barrel where it is. If they hear shook, where I'm shucking the shell, then there's going to be another one. That's my cue. Okay. So then they turn with my barrel under controlled, turn with my barrel to where my barrel stops, and they know, okay, this is the direction the next one's coming. So learning to swing with the barrel, but not jumping all over the place, because what happens is if you go, bird shot, boom, 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 and you don't give the dog enough time to watch where that one bird fell, 1, they're not going to remember it. And then 2, you get a dog that every time there's something that goes up, they know something else is going to go on somewhere, so they start swinging their head all over the place. They're not watching where the one bird falls. Run singles. I know it seems elementary. I know it seems basic. Singles are a great way to work on your marks. And then when you want to get to multiple marks, you can throw your doubles, right? You can throw your mark, make them watch it, then turn them away. Like, work on that memory as a skill, right? Really work on them zoning in and watching where that goes down.
Right. So how often are you throwing doubles? So are you throwing doubles? Do you go out? I know this answer, but for the audience, do you go out in one training session and throw 5 doubles in a row?
No. I'm running a lot of singles. I'll run a lot of singles because I want those dogs dialed in. Okay, so think about this. If let's just use a 5-gun setup, right? So when I would say setup, I mean like when I send a dog, that's one set. Okay, so if I run single, 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 double. When I get to that double, the dog is thinking it's a single.
Mm-hmm.
So he's locked in to where that bird falls. And so when I tell him, nope, double, and pull him off of it, he's locked in thinking he's going, right? So he has a mental picture taken of where I need to get to. So when I pull him off, run him on the second bird, and come back to it, most of the time those dogs, they zip into heel and they're dialed in to where that first bird fell because they were already once dialed in there.
Right.
And they know where they're going.
Right.
Right. So we run a lot of singles. Now, this was a mistake that I made very, very early on in my career and had to change that, right? So change and vary the distance that you are running your marks. Okay. So run one at 80 and the next one at 18.
Right.
And then 50. And then 150. And then make the dog truly mark instead of just going. It's easy to set everything up okay, so today we're at 70 yards. Boom, 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 boom. Well, the dog's just going to break down at that 70 yards and not truly mark.
Right.
Right. Varying those things up, working on the marks, working on singles, working on again, everybody wants to push, but it's amazing if you are in the situation, you're running triple marks a lot, you will likely see some bad habits come out of it, and that head swinging is the biggest one that I see.
Yeah. And you can create head swinging with doubles.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, if all you run are doubles, for sure, and that's where I say going back to marks is so important. And by marks, I mean just throwing one, making them go pick it up.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I don't even consider this a step back.
No, not at all.
I look at this as being intentional with your training.
Yep.
We're not going out there and just running a finished setup because the dog can.
Right.
Right. We are breaking this down. We're going to run a single, then we're going to run a double, then we're going to come back to a single, then we're going to go run a blind, then we're going to come back, we're going to run a single with a diversion, right? We're going to be intentional about this, working on something each time.
Yeah. No, that's a great topic. Like Josh said, it came up in Retriever Roadmap and had several people, like he said, there's just a lot of, sometimes people try to get ahead of things, where they're at, and, moving on to triple marks. I don't throw triple marks. You heard Josh say that, he very rarely throws triple marks. I'll do doubles from time to time, but it's single marks. So yeah, that's one thing I love about Retriever Roadmap is just throw my plug in here is the community and other members that are jumping in and talking about, answering questions and trying to help other members. It's all positive stuff. It's all great stuff.
Well, and I wouldn't have thought of that. I mean, maybe I would have, but I wouldn't have thought that many people were getting to triples or wanting to run triples, running triples every setup. I wouldn't have thought of that because that's not what I do, right? And so I love that part of it too, because we can be very specific on what we're talking about. But it's interesting to me that when you get to a certain level, running a triple mark, I get it.
Right.
You want to go out there and run triples all the time because that's what you've worked up to. Get it.
Right.
But the bad habit part of it is a real thing. Let's go to doubles or triples. Okay, let's just triples. If you're going to run a triple, here's another one. Don't throw all three at 50.
Right.
Or 100 or 150, right? Because what happens, and everybody wants to go long. Very few times do I go to a training with a buddy or someone else sets up the setup and someone throws a shorty in there, right? I have seen more dogs fail a test because of that short mark. If they go first bird's at 110, second bird's at 80, and then they come back and the last bird's at 20, and they just ran 2 long ones in a row,
Yep.
good chance they're going to want to go long again.
For sure.
Again, that's very difficult. A dog that has to watch in an area he's never been in, never trained in, never stepped foot in, right? Like I've had dogs that they've never been in the state that we're running in.
Right.
And I'm expecting them to walk up and go boom, boom, boom. Remember, all 3 are.
Right.
That is a talent. And so like what I've done is actually Brock is who did this with me, because Brock is a line runner, right? So he has saved me multiple times at tests where if I have to use my handle, so if you've never been to HRC finish test, there's 2 triple marks. Okay, 2 triple marks, 1 on land, 1 on water, and you can only handle on 1 of the 6 marks. Okay, so if I have to use my handle on 1 of the 6 in the morning, and I come in the afternoon, and I've had times where just the way that the bird is thrown, maybe the background is like real thick trees with a shadow. Like I know he didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching him, like I can't barely see it, and I know where it's coming from, and I'm watching him, and I'm just watching that he doesn't see it. So we pick up the 2 he did see go down, bring him back, and a good buddy of mine calls this poke and pray, because that's exactly what this is. And you just send him on a line because you can't handle. Act like it's a blind retrieve, send him, and you just try to play the wind, try to play where he's at. Hope he steps on that mark. And he's saved me numerous times doing that. But he's also, especially at his younger age, was big motor. So if he ran, 80, 110, and can't come back and do a short one, I mean, he was going to go fast. So what I do is I use my voice inflection, right? So like the first one, Brock. Second one, Brock. Third one, come back, and I might be like, easy, Brock. I'm just like, hey, this one is short.
Yep.
Use my voice to be like, this is different, right? Now, we train for this,
Yep.
right? And we do this with singles. Long, Brock, long, Brock, long, Brock, and then come into short and go, Brock. And you like right away every time they're like half hitch, and they're like, what? And they're like, might look up at you or just freeze, like, Brock, and then he'll go, right? And they pick it up. They go, oh, this is what you mean.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So, just again, as we get into, this whole triple mark, topic, another mistake that can oftentimes be made is just go long. Because again, it's no different than running the triple to begin with.
Right.
When you start running, I can run a 200-yard mark. Well, why would I ever want to come back and run a 20-yard mark? Well, one, you'd hope you have more 20-yard marks you're picking up in the field than 200. Right. I would hope. If you're shooting Kent cartridge, you will be running more 20
short
than 200.
Ones.
Short ones because you're killing them, right? But all joking aside, like that is a real thing
for sure,
right? And so again, just coming back, come back. You don't have to go big or go home all the time,
right? And the same it's just the opposite. Like if you train by yourself a lot and you're throwing marks next to your dog from your hand and you're only throwing them 20, 30 yards, well, over time your dog's going to get accustomed to picking up marks 20 or 30 yards.
That's right.
So when you do have a longer one, they go to that 20 or 30 yard mark and go, this is about where I'm usually at, where I pick up my reward. Mm-hmm. And so that's where incorporating your extended marks to get him to go longer help. But like you said, you got to mix those up. You don't just keep running 200-yard marks, because then again, he's just going to step on the mark running by the one that's 20 yards because he's used to going out 200 yards.
That's a fantastic point, because I'm talking about like the extreme of like you're pushing, you're like achieving these very big things and like not wanting to come back down. Like that's a great point too. Probably a way more common issue, because not everybody has wingers. Not everybody has people to throw for them, right? So if you're throwing from yourself and you're hand throwing, and you can only throw 30 yards, you are over time going to condition your dog that all retrieves are at 30 yards.
Yes.
So all of a sudden you start doing, work that you're starting to push away, push further, and the dog is struggling with it. That is why. And that is why everything that we're talking about, it is why I preach so much. Be intentional with your training. Don't go out there and just throw, some hand thrown marks in the backyard because you only have 10 minutes and it's better than nothing. I don't know if it is better than nothing. Right? Like, you have to go out there and say, this is what I'm going to go accomplish today. Let's rewind all the way back to the dog that I didn't make sit down, did everything else right? I went out there. My session was, I want you to stop en route, be under control, take a cast.
Right.
He did that.
Yep.
We accomplished that, right? So then the next evolution is, now we're going to take this baby step. And every time, every single dog, I have a goal. This is what I'm hoping to accomplish today. We don't always accomplish that goal, but I'm intentional with what I'm doing out there. This is exactly what we're talking about, being intentional.
Yep. 100%.
Right?
100%.
So.
Before we get off of this, one last thing, because this came up as well. So you are running double or running a triple. What is your cue? So that memory spawn, and now you've got a go bird. So once you're on that memory bird, now I know you talked about your gun, but is there any kind of other cue that you may get your dog to either look out there, or is there a cue that when you come back to that, back to that last memory that he's got to go to, that he knows? Is there anything that you say to your dog, or are you just trusting that he's got this picture in his head and he's going to go in the right direction?
So you're saying he comes back with the go bird. He comes back to heel, hands you the bird, and we're set up to go on a memory.
Right.
Is there a cue that I use?
Right.
No. I mean, so the dogs watched. Now let's just use the double in this case, right? Watch two birds go down. Most dogs are not going to forget in the 12 seconds it took him to pick this up that there's another one out there. Right. Now, I have had dogs that struggle a little bit with it, and I've just always said something to him like, where is it? Like this is my thing. I'm not saying to use that as a cue, because I didn't actually train for that. Right. Just over time, it kind of perked them up and intensified them. But I like most of my dogs, no.
Yeah.
They're back. If I do anything, it's putting my left hand down in the direction that I want them to run. And sometimes it's just helpful to them. Like they might come back, and if we're using the face of a clock, right? So let's just say they picked one up at 11. They come back. The next one's at 2, but they're kind of facing a little more towards 1. Like that's where I might use my hand and direct them a little bit more to the right, bring them back down to that 2, right? And that's the teamwork part of it.
Yeah.
Like you're close, but you're not quite on it. So here, let me help you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So I don't really have a vocal cue at all. It's just more of the time of, hey, you're coming back, and they reload.
Are you preparing for the next memory and lining yourself up so when they come back to heel, you already got them lined up in the direction you want to go? Or are you accepting the bird on the path that you just released them on, and now you're going to heel them, turn to that line, and release them?
So every dog's going to be a little different in how they do this, but most dogs, especially the really intense dogs, they're going to come back, let's just say with that first bird. Again, let's just use what did I just say, 11 and 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say it comes back with the one at 11 o'clock. Those dogs are likely going to come back and just go, and they're going to be facing 2 o'clock.
Right.
Because they're knowing where they're going next. They're dialing in, And so Brock does this. Actually, every one of my dogs does this. Without exception, actually. Every one of them. Go get the one, come back, and they dial right into the next one. Okay, so for me, I'm not going to, especially if you're dialed into the right spot,
Sure.
I'm not going to handle you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take that bird, Brock, let him go. Because he knows what he's doing,
Yep.
right? Oftentimes, he's better than I am at it, right?
Yep.
He's good at it. So I'm going to trust him. I'm going to let him do his thing. And that's ultimately what we're doing, right?
Right.
This isn't a handling drill. This is a marking drill. We want you to mark, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, that's how I handle it.
Yeah. And I meant to say this earlier when you were talking about it. What you were talking about is, all right, the first bird, boom, and before it even hits the ground, all right, you're going to the second bird, boom, you already hits the ground, and now you're going to that go bird. So you as a human, and this is where we humanize our dogs. You as a human might not even remember where the heck that bird was.
Oh yeah.
So how are you going to expect your dog to remember where that mark was?
It is a really interesting question,
Right?
Because a lot of us get frustrated with the dog not remembering most of us, if we were put in that situation, we wouldn't remember either.
Right.
So, now here's what's interesting. Okay. So you talk about, like, again, I just talked about not running triple marks. Okay. But let's just go back and say you're going to run a triple mark, or you're in a test. 'Cause I've done this numerous times in a test, and we are in a triple mark, and we set up, pick up the first bird, come back, and there's two more, right? So, again, I'm going to use Brock as an example just because I've used Brock a couple times as an example through this show. Comes back, dials in to one of the two, okay? Now, there are times I will pull him off and run him on the other one of the two he's not dialed in. More like 99% of the time, I'm letting him choose which one he's going on first. So if he comes back, let's just say, we bird 1, bird 2, bird 3, we pick up 3, come back, he's dialed in on 1, I'm going to let him go get 1, right? I'm not going to overhandle him, right? He comes back, he says, I remember that one right there. I take the bird, Brock, let him go get it. He's going to come back in, hopefully dials into 2, go pick that one up. But there is the rare occasion that happens. I'm going to pull him off of him and run a different one. Okay, so let me kind of paint the picture of this. So bird, we're again face the clock. The first bird's at 10, short, 30 yards. Bird 2 is at 12 noon at 1:10. Bird 3, which is our go bird, is at 2 o'clock. Doesn't matter how long. Goes and picks that one up. Comes back. Comes in, dials in on 1, which is the short bird. Okay, at 10. I'm sorry, wrong. Dials in at noon. Okay, so we have one bird at 10, short. Goes and dials in at noon. Wants to go pick up bird number 2 at 110 yards, straight at 12. The problem with this is that we have the wind going left to right, and he is going to run through the scent cone of bird number 1. And Brock, because I know my dog, I know that his nose is always on, and I know what's going to happen is I'm going to send him on that one. He's going to catch scent, get pulled off, and he's going to hunt, back in.
Yep.
Could it be a distraction? Absolutely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say no, because, again, he's dialed in at noon. I don't want this to happen. No. Pull him off to 1. He goes, oh, yeah, there's one right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's short. Brock. Soft. Pick that one up. Now that distraction is gone. Okay, now let's go around that 12 o'clock one. So every once in a great while, there's a reason to, but more times than not, people go up there and they go, it has to be picked up in my head. I want to pick this up 3-1-2.
Yep.
And the dog comes back with 3, dials in to 2 instead of 1, and the owner goes, no, don't overhandle him.
Right.
Like, the dog's coming back telling you, Dad, I know that one is right there. Unless you have a real reason for handling him off, let him go pick that one up, because you're just going to make him overthink it.
Yep.
Right? So, but then again, I'm going to go back to telling you don't run triple marks on a regular basis or hardly at all because of the bad habits that can create.
Yeah. And I'm not going to get into too much, but I think one thing that you said there that a lot of people don't take they don't think about when they're training is that wind direction. Obviously there are guys, but majority of the guys, they don't take into consideration of that wind direction.
Most of the reason that I have ribbon tied on our blind markers, which are if you're in the north, you know what these are. If you're in the south, you probably don't. Little orange driveway markers that just mark where the edge of your driveway is. So when it snows, you know where you have to plow up to. But they're great for this because dogs can't distinguish that orange against specifically green. So it's blind to them. For us, we see it, so it helps us know this is right where that is. Put a little orange ribbon on there so I can see which way the wind is blowing. If my dog is going to, this is a hunting situation, not a test, trial situation, but if my dog is going to miss it, just a hair on the downwind side, that's great. He's going to smell it. If he's on the upwind side, I know now why he missed it, and I might in my head know I have to stop him and handle him to it, right? Yep. So, wind direction is big, for sure.
Yep, good stuff.
For sure.
Good
stuff.
I
think let's wrap this one up.
Okay.
Because, one, I'm sick of watching these flies. And it's irritated me that I've gone this whole episode without getting one of these dirty suckers, even though I know I smacked that one enough that he flew off, but I think it was just nerves.
He was going nan.
I think it was nerves.
As he's landing on my head.
So thank you guys so much. Oh, give me 1 second. I might get this sucker.
Yep. While you're doing that, I just want to let everybody know, I don't know if you got him or not, but if you are in the Anoka area this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, stop into Game Fair and say hi to myself, Joe. Dave will be there on Friday. I think Whitney will be there Friday. Aaron will be there on Saturday. But stop in to our booth. We're all the way down by the Scurry. Stop in, say hi, learn more about Retriever Roadmap. We have some. You can see more in depth about the program. So love to talk retriever training with you guys. So if you're in the area, please stop in and say hi.
And I would like to just confirm with everyone that I did kill that fly.
Did you?
Yes, it is very important to me that everyone knows that. So hope you guys have
1 for 3.
Yes, okay, yeah. That might get me in the Hall of Fame if we were playing baseball. But okay, so hope you guys have a great, fantastic rest of your week. Hope you have a great weekend. Choose your battles. That's going to be my challenge to you this week, whether that is in life or your dogs. Choose your battles and choose them wisely. So have a great week. We'll talk to you later on.
See you, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes. And a special thank you to DUK because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.